What do you see happening if Hillary Clinton does get in? What does her first 100 days look like?
Well, it's the end of the republic. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. And this case has been made by a wide variety of people. But the case, very briefly, is this, that she's going to legalize tens of millions of illegal immigrants who are going to be an absolutely unstoppable, unblockable voting base for the left from here to eternity. And that means that you may end up with some vestigial remnant, like I still have a little bit of a monkey tail, but you might end up with some vestigial remnant of the Republican Party in American politics. But all they will be is a sort of fig leaf to cover the endless predations of leftism. They will have to conform to the left. They will have to count out special interest groups among the illegal immigrants. And they may, as they have been doing for the last couple of decades, they may say to the Republican voters, oh, yes, we're going to repeal Obamacare and we're going to cut back the government here and lower taxes there and simplify the code and all. But all that will happen is that any Republicans who are still going to believe that stuff, and after Trump and the way the Republican Party treated Trump, I don't think there'll be very many. All of those people will end up voting for the Republicans, and then the Republicans will end up betraying them to the dominant voting bloc. And we've seen, of course, this happen in Argentina and other places, right? Argentina in the Second World War had the same per capita income as America and was poised to be a free market economy, just as Chile managed to sort of survive its way through. Unlike Venezuela, Argentina was poised to become a sort of a first world in the third world and to follow America's growth pattern in the 1950s. Now, whether it was because, as the archetypical story goes, a whole bunch of Nazis fled there and set up National Socialism there and infected the minds of people with various kinds of collectivism or whatever, but Argentina fell from its path and turned into the third world, socialist, central planning, tiny group of elites huddled in their walled communities while people all outside all end up reusing underwear and picking through the garbage looking for non-2 flea-infested rats to eat. That's where things go when you invite the third world into the first world with enough of a voting bloc that the third world ideas dominate the first world bureaucracies. Well, you end up with the third world. I mean, a culture can take a certain amount of enrichment by having other cultures come in, but you need to have time to blend. If you add enough lemon to your bacon, you don't end up with lemon bacon, you just end up with lemon. And that, of course, is the problem. So to me, it will be the end of the two-party system, which is already a big enough problem. But it certainly will be the end of any possibility of peacefully and legally rescuing the system from ever and ever bigger government control of the economy and of people's lives and thoughts and minds.
Well, I tell you, if we could get these words out to 100 million people right now, maybe we could change some minds before.
I'll say them louder.
Say them louder.
Okay, hang on. Socialism bad, free market good.
You can't have secret servers. You can't destroy evidence after it's subpoenaed. You can't have your maid print out your top secret emails. You can't funnel money through the Clinton Foundation. And that's exactly what it was. It was a whole scheme. There's so many crimes going on.
But that's the whole question, right? Or can you? Right? That's the big question that hangs in front of the American public right now. You can't do these things, or
unless
can
you're Hillary
you?
Clinton.
Right? That's the big fork in the road. Are you going to have a rule of law, or are you going to have a rule of charisma and money and undershady dealings and power? That is the question. I mean, we've got a population, right, where 83% of Americans who were polled recently say that they genuinely believe, deep in their heart of hearts, that Hillary Clinton did something or some things that were either illegal or unethical. That's 83%. Now, that, of course, is only 17% who either don't know or say, nope, think she's completely on the up and up. How on earth can you have a viable presidential candidacy when 83% of the population think you did something illegal or unethical? Because she has a support base of much more than 17%, which means, of course, with that overlap, as you know, there are a lot of people who think she did something really illegal or unethical, but they're going to vote for her anyway, which means that there's been a complete uncoupling of basic moral standards from voting. So what are they voting for? It's not for morality. It's not for integrity. It's not for virtue. It's not for any kind of ethical standards. What are they voting for? They're voting, I believe, for free stuff. All the stuff that she's going to hand over and provide to them at the expense of the rapidly shrinking and diminishing middle class in America. And you really should not be voting for free stuff. We all kind of know that deep down, which is why, of course, in the past, I'm not suggesting we go back there, but of course, in the past, you had to be a property owner. You had to have a sort of minimum income in order to vote, because the argument back in the 19th century was say, okay, well, if you give universal suffrage, if everyone gets to vote, well, the poor outnumber the rich. So the poor will vote to take away the property of the rich, and everybody gets to be poor. And that is a huge problem. Is there a conflict of interest if you're on the receiving end of government largesse? Can you make objective decisions based upon honor and virtue and integrity? If you're on the receiving end of government money, can you make objective decisions about taxation and spending? That's called conflict of interest in the private sector. It seems to be just called voting, at least on the left in the public sector these days. And I think we should, again, if we can shrink the amount of size and power of the state, then people can begin voting again based on principles and issues rather on ka-ching, ka-ching, I want my free government cheddar in a wheelbarrow. Well, here's the thing I think that's important about Hillary's health. And of course, nobody knows, I mean, other than her inner circle, her doctor and so on, what's really going on with her health. But this is what I would ask, a basic sort of question. If you are questioned by the FBI regarding your use of an internal or domestic email server, bypassing all of the security and protections and expertise of your .gov servers and so on, if the FBI sits you down and asks you a whole lot of questions about why you did what you did, and you say to the FBI repeatedly, I hit my head, it was really bad, I can't remember. Okay, so maybe that gets you off the hook with the FBI, although there are reports that the FBI agents who were interviewing her wanted her medical records because they did not believe that her head injury was that bad, or at least they had some questions that needed to be answered. They wanted her medical records. They went to Comey and said, can we get her medical records? He said, no. Okay. So if that's your excuse to the FBI, that you hit your head so badly that you can't remember very, very important things, I think that's kind of relevant to whether or not you should be given the nuclear codes, to whether you should be put in charge of the largest army in the world and the most powerful government in the world. That seems to me kind of important. So if you're going to use your health as an excuse as to why you can't remember things with regards to the FBI, I think it's pretty reasonable for voters to then say, okay, come on, pony up. If you're going to use this as an excuse, we better find out what the heck is going on with your health.
So you're never going to get this communist utopia, and capitalism isn't perfect. And you could see how our system has gone as capitalism. It's crony capitalism, and it doesn't work in a lot of areas, but a lot of areas it does work. Well, you know, we're able to get on and do this stuff on the internet.
If you have a really great idea, then what you should do is you should bring your great idea to the marketplace of ideas and convince other people how great your idea is and why they should adopt it. If you have an idea that you think is great, but you also believe can only be implemented by pointing the guns of the state at innocent, peaceful people in order to get them to bow down and scrape and obey the coerciveness of your great idea, that is not virtue, that is tyranny. I mean, if I want a woman to go out with me, I can go and ask her out, and thus she can say yes or she can say no. You know, maybe I'll spritz on a little aftershave and comb my tiny mohawk into something approximating a hairdo, but I have to go out and ask her. Now, if I go out with chloroform, a paper bag, or a potato sack, and then throw it into the back of a windowless van, I guess she's out with me, but it's not by choice, and it's a crime. And so the problem is with people like Barack Obama, who says, oh, I've got this great solution. I can cut a third or $3,000 a year from your healthcare costs. Well, great. Then go and start a company and offer that services. You'll outcompete everyone, and you won't need all the guns in the universe pointed at people so that they conform to your idea. And this is why if communists got this great idea, fantastic. If you want workers to make decisions about how a company works, fantastic. Go start that company and give your workers a say, but just stop pointing guns at the rest of us who are trying to get some stuff done that doesn't involve bowing down to the cordite smell of your personal integrity and virtue. Everything that led up to the victory that some circles, of course, are claiming is imminent will be studied in great detail, and people, I believe, will hold in high esteem and with great honor everyone who helped to propel this victory, everyone who brought the truth out against the machinations and falsehoods of the mainstream media, everyone who convinced friends to learn and to overcome the lies that were being pumped down our throats on a daily basis, everyone who helped pump out the bilge water of propaganda that passed for reporting in the modern West. Everybody will be seen, everybody will be noted, and will be honored. And I think those of us who have worked hard to bring the truth to the people against all odds, and at sometimes personal cost, will have great honor and great respect in the future. It's not why I do it, and I'm sure it's not why many people do it, but it's not a bad little piece of icing to have on the cake of moral satisfaction. There's still time. Let me just make this little tiny pitch
Sure.
to the people out there. There is still time to retire from the fight with great honor. If you have refrained from talking to people in your social circle, if you have refrained from talking to people even at work, if you have refrained from talking to your family members because you don't want to cause any trouble, or you don't want to make people upset, or you don't want to build any bridges, build any walls, so to speak, between you and those you care about, there's still time. There's still time to do something, to take a stand that you can be really, really proud of. Because this moment in history is going to come and is going to go, and it's going to be deep in the rear view. And I sure would hate for people in the future to look back at this moment, this day, tomorrow, and say, cowardice got the better of me. And okay, there was a victory, but I wasn't any part of it. And, there are those posters, like I grew up, my family was on both sides involved in the Second World War. And I grew up with these posters, hanging around, which is like, well, Daddy, what did you do in the Great War? And of course, the whole point was you're supposed to have some kind of answer to that. And if you don't have an answer as yet, there's still time. There's still time to do something that you can look back on with pride. And there's still time to take a stand. There's still time to change some minds. And I hope that people will avail themselves of that and avoid the future regret of not having been part of a victory that was so open for everyone to be a part of and to help.